at the Gazoozy, but I gotta tell you, it was an incredible 3 years I spent on that little ranch in the backwoods of southern Oregon, way back in the early 90s. I had this opportunity come my way to take over this little ranch and run it right. Well, it didn't get right enough, but oh, it sure ran me, I'll tell you. And when I stepped away from that place, I was a different person by a long shot than the one that had first stepped in there, yet I was still the same. I just knew a whole lot more about myself and what was going on. I knew the reality of spirit and the power in it. And I'd been challenged extremely. Life and death every time I turned around during those 3 years. But the impact on me was strong, because when you're walking those roads between life and death, you can see what others cannot see. You can see through the realities. When you're close to death, it's, and that's why I kind of lingered there for a number of months. I think it was in 94, but it might have been 92 or 96. Who the heck? No, it wasn't 96. But anyway, 90, somewhere back in there. And a lifetime of struggle came to a head there. I'll tell you a little story. It was like all my life, this is what these photographs from my childhood have rekindled. All of my life, I've had this major dose of darkness within me. It's the only way I can describe it, When I was a kid, just right after I was infected, I got it when I was 4 years old, in a real dark moment in a place called Salt Lake City, but we'll talk about that another time. But anyway, I had these energies, and so as a result, my childhood was extremely troubled. I'd go through these huge swings between, meanness and super kindness. It was like extremes. I'd fought with this all of my life. It had been contained to a certain extent when I was 8 years old by an incident that came to me then that kind of pushed it down, but yet it's still there and it's still active. And it took me a long time to learn to balance it out. But by the time I was in my early 40s and running that ranch back there in the mountains of southern Oregon, beautiful place, saw the face of God everywhere you looked. But by the time I was there, I was completely worn out from the struggle. In a similar place to where I am now, in a sense, but very different. But completely worn out from the struggle inside of myself. I was exhausted. I was done with this frickin' paradigm. I didn't want to do it anymore. It stunk to high heaven. I didn't like being pushed and pulled like that to such extremes. I was amazed that I'd kept my nose clean for most of my life, since I was a kid anyway, and stayed out of trouble. Trouble's still my middle name, and I had just struggled with this world financially, and I'd moved 1,000 times, and I had a family. I had a wife and 2 kids, man, and I was like, just never settled, just never able to take a nice bite in this life and be this life, I was always dealing with these extremes inside of myself. So time came when my body began to reflect this, and inside of myself, my body was producing antibodies against its own muscles. Strange condition, let me tell you. And I was weakening and going down, and you know what, I was ready to die. I was done with it, man. I was tired, like, fuck this, enough is enough, that's what my little boy inside was saying, because he's always been the motivating factor here. He's always been the child inside of me. Has been the one that's got me through, that keeps me going. But I never let him grow up too much. And I kept him that child because I liked him like that. He was a precocious little kid. He was beautiful, He's innocent, and he was right on. Before he got so polluted, but even after that, he still had those abilities. So I came to this moment, where I've told you a little about it before, I'm sure. But, the sky opened up. It was time, and I was ready to check out. The gateway came. And there's all these beautiful enlightened beings, and telling me that I needed to stay alive and do a little more of this, because there was a lot more to go, and countless numbers of lives were held in the balance. And I looked at him, and you just feel so loved in a moment like this. And I looked at him, and, in that quiet, internal way, you'd call it telepathy or telepathy now, but it's much more than that. But anyway, I just told him, guys, I'm a loser. I've played the fringe in this life. I just, no matter what I do, I don't fit here. I can't find that place. I don't belong. I fail at everything I fucking do sooner or later, Excuse my plain language, but this is just how I'm feeling, and it's very descriptive. I hope you can take it in the loving sense that it's offered. And I said, guys, I'm the ultimate loser. You got the wrong number, I don't know what do you mean, countless numbers of lives. And instead of explaining it to me, they just held on. They figured I'd find out sooner or later, I guess, but they just held on. They just switched the flip and said to me, well, can you stay alive for your kids and grandkids? I had a few of them then. And I was like, well, yeah, if I have to. I don't want to see them suffering unnecessarily because I'm a chicken shit and checking out. So in this way, these beings, these beautiful enlightened beings who control the flow between life and death, convinced me to remain here. And right after that, I started getting better from my illness. Didn't take long, some material ways came to me and herbs and stuff. But anyway, long story short, I began my life over again. It was a new start for me. It was like going right back to scratch and beginning again. Because I had to relearn it all, and I'm still in that process. But spirits, enlightened beings, ascended masters, many have come to me and shared their energy, the wealth of their knowledge and information, and that's why I'm able to share so much with you. Because I've been reloaded, I've been reprogrammed, but I still have had these elements of struggle inside. I don't struggle with it anymore, but the elements, the yin and the yang, still existed within me in a very strong way. Now the reason why I'm telling you all this, most of you are going through a similar process over these next few days, maybe the next few weeks. There's some intense processing going on, so I'm just here to encourage you and to demonstrate to you that you can get through it. That the days of darkness are nearly over, and that because beings such as myself are able to endure such extreme energies and come out of it relatively unscathed and intact, relatively, y'all can make it too. There's no give and take. There's no push-pull. There's no separation and division between anyone and everyone. It's all a together thing. And this is what we're beginning to learn and realize as we go through this process, over these next few days. This is December 13th today. We just left behind 12/12. What an intense day. Man, thought I was going to die again. Not really, but it had those feelings, those elements to it. While the rest of you are starting to come back to life, I was like, holy God, I got to process a whole bunch of shit again. So I just lay down and do it, just take care of it. you know, the best I can. And, you know, I'm an old fumblebutt too. I do make mistakes, and plenty of them, but they're kind of innocent mistakes because of that little boy inside. You know, still not quite fitting in the old paradigm, because hell, he never did. He was just here to help open some doors for himself and many others. And yeah, I've been here many times before, and so have you. Well, most of you anyway. There's a few around here that are new, and you're just here for the experience of it, and that's a beautiful thing, you know. None of us, no matter our stage in life, are any better or any worse than anyone else. I know that's a difficult concept for you, which is why I try to tell things in stories sometimes, you know. But you're, this week, going to go back and connect with your roots, in a sense, inside of yourself. In this lifetime, in your childhood, there's a ton of pollution. I don't care how privileged your upbringing was, how soft or how prominent, or what your position is now. I mean, in this lifetime, everyone has been through some moments of darkness in their childhood, and they've been extremely colored by it, but it's because this is the last lifetime for most of us, you know, if not for all of us. And so we've come to this time to finish with the energies that we've allowed to control us for centuries without end, eons of time. And I explained to you in my last video how we separate God. When they get us to separate God or Great Spirit away from ourselves, then we've just externalized our power, and, you know, we're very controllable. We're weak and humble beings. And there's nothing wrong with being in that place, part of the experience here, but it's not a reality. It's an untruthful thing. And when you're separated from that God essence inside of yourself, as I would call it, Source, Creator, Great Spirit, when you're separated from that, when you see it as something external, well then, it is. But when you see it inside of yourself again, and you know that you're just another element in the great makeup of this cosmic experience we call life, then you can begin to appreciate your experience in it, and you can understand why you've gone to such extremes. In this lifetime, we're loaded, all of us, with extreme darkness, so that we can find our extreme light, so that we can find that precious place in the middle where everything comes together. And that's truth. And there is no light or dark, good or evil, bad or indifferent. None of that exists in this special place, in the center of our being, the center of our heart. So as human beings, we're all being guided and directed in this way, in a very similar way to what I went through back there on the ranch. We've been sick for a long, long time from the conflict within. And we've tried our damnedest to balance it out. You know, we've used yoga and spiritualism and religions and just all kinds of shit to try and get ourselves into a better space. And each time we have, it blows back in our face. Yeah, some things work better than others, but we still never quite connected with that place inside we call the heart, that is all-knowing, that is the center of everything. It seems to avoid us. We go to these extremes. We go through swings and cycles, you know. We go through good times in our lives and not so good times in our lives. We lose the ones we love, and they mean a lot to us, and we feel the pain of that separation, but because it reminds us of the separation we received in the beginning of these dispensations of the age of darkness, when we began to feel separate from the creative source within ourselves, the essence of God. And the whole experience, the whole journey in this age of darkness has been to return to this simple truth, this truthful place inside of ourselves where there can be no deception, because we see into one another. We know the beauty of ourselves and our light and our life and our love, and we know the effectiveness. We know our connection through the collective with one another, and we know that we always act as a collective. That this feeling of being an individual being, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's nice to be this one little snowflake in the blizzard we call life, and there are uncountable numbers of snowflakes out there blowing around, and when we combine ourselves, we turn out some beautiful things. You know what I mean? It's a great metaphor. So during these coming weeks, these coming few days, we're some more than others, of course, because there are those who are what I would call spirit leaders. But they lead through the heart. They don't necessarily stand in front of people and on a soapbox and yell at you or even say sweet things to you, anything like that. They're just there quietly doing their work. Now, I was invited to a couple of parties yesterday. I would have loved to have gone. I wasn't quite in a partying mood, but I still would have loved to have gone. But the energies of that day were so intense, I partied with the spirits instead and helped myself get in a more equal and level place. Well, you're here to fulfill your purpose now. Each and every one of you. In different ways and levels. That's the beauty of the individual. But the more you get into this, and there's a great fear around losing your person. There's some kind of pride in this thing, this one little body that you are, And there's a fear of letting go of that perception. Well, people, we can straighten you all out pretty quick on that. You're not going to lose your individual beauty. The personality that you have, it becomes much more deep and rich compared to where it has been. You won't be these shallow people anymore that are so fickle that a simple little word can throw you off. Said the wrong way by the wrong person can throw you off kilter for days, maybe even months and years. You won't be like that anymore. But you'll be in a place where there's peace, where you understand and forgive yourself in each moment that you live, because you understand the motion of the collective through you. You understand why your past has been how it's been. It's really pretty simple when it comes right down to it. It's just a matter of seeing the love. And when I talk about the collective acting through you, and that each choice you make is a movement of the collective, this is what I'm talking about, is the love that moves you. And you're hardly ever conscious of it. But you're going to become greatly so, I would say, in the next few days. Greatly so. And there will be a peaceful feeling settling in on you. Right now we're in the finishing throes with our darker sides. We're helping them come to the realization that they're just a part of the cosmic mix too. And they've only been acting as they've been programmed to do by the collective love in everyone. We needed this experience in good and evil. This experience in separation. It's a part of the enrichment of our soul. It's like the shit you go through, the fertilizer that makes the soil rich, and from that comes the greatest and most abundant harvest ever. Because we were willing to go through the shit. We were willing to be the beast and beyond, be worse than any beast we've ever known. We were willing to accept that struggle within ourselves, to not know life. Because that's not our natural state of being. Look at your childhood pictures and remember the innocence you had. How beautiful you still are inside. even as you're being polluted in those childhood days by those beings of darkness around you, you know. You don't lose your innocence. It simply goes undercover for a while, so you can experience this terrible push-pull world that takes us every which way. You know? It's been a good and valuable experience. I don't care who's picked on you, how bad you've been victimized, or how bad you've been making victims out of everybody else because you felt so God-blessed, insecure, and empty inside. You know? Those experiences are valuable too. And the beings of darkness have performed the greatest function by giving up all essence of life to the point they began to hate anything living, anything that appeared as living, and felt themselves the contrary energy to everything that is, and gave us this experience in good and evil. Holy shit. But these presences, these beings, are saints. And part of our processes right now is helping them inside of ourselves. The entities that have invaded us and coagulated a part of our person into being their person. To help them remember this. That they have stretched themselves to the point where life could have been absent from them. Never was, never will be, because that's just a perception and an activity in perception. So in reality, they've always remained these saints that they are. But only the strongest souls, the strongest hearts, could go through such an experience, could cause such pain and suffering and great torture throughout the entirety of this paradigm. And your story is similar wherever you are. You may not be as extreme, thank goodness, but everyone has these elements, and each person here has been playing out their individual part of the element of life, their little role, their little scene, and adding to the enrichment of all, because you were able to suffer through it. Think about this, people. We're rocking. Human beings are the center of the universe in a sense, because we've taken the energy of all those who would be contrary to life and purified it within ourselves and within our Mother Earth, within our toxic environment. And now, because we persevered to the very end, we can handle a little processing with our darkness. We can take the remainder of our pain and finish with it. People, do whatever you can to be in a communicative state in these next few days. Return again and again to this presence of heart as often as you can. And recognize then that you're in it all the time anyway. And let go. When you see them, let go of the terrible judgments you've held upon yourself. The feeling of never being good enough, no matter how good you have done. Let yourself accept the feeling of peace that lies right underneath your most anxious feelings, the things you are most in fear of inside of yourself. Go through this fear. When I was a little kid, I had this fear of closed-in places. I didn't like them. I felt suffocated in them. You know, I must have died in a mine or something in some life previous, you know. But I had that fear from the time I was little, you know. And one time, I just made myself do something I wouldn't normally do for that fear. It was to crawl through a little tiny culvert, a little ditch culvert. It was about 100 yards long. Well, that was a feat for me. But because I did that, because I made myself do it, and nothing really bad happened to me, and I started challenging all my fears, and sometimes getting beyond them. And this would get me in trouble in this world, because some of those fears had a place here, at least for the moment, and were meant to restrict you from being too extreme. But I didn't know that. I figured if one fear was bad, they all were bad, and I would challenge every one of them. Well, you're in a point now where you're ready to challenge your fears, to go right through them. And if they have substance to them, you're going to know it. If there's a reason for their being, if they're a cautionary fear, you're going to know it. But you're also going to learn how not to experience it as fear. It's just to see there's an inherent danger here. I don't want to do this, whatever that fear is warning you about. And then it becomes no longer fear. You're not afraid of anything. You know better. And it's in your heart to be this and do this, just like it is in mine. We just gotta go there. We're compelled, really by forces beyond our being and presence, which is the collective love of all, which is saying, yay, humanity, you can do this. You've got it down, babies. You can do it. You're almost there, babies. Don't give it up now. That's what I'm hearing. So, no matter how tricky it gets, and it's bound to be a little tricky, because we are dealing with these extreme forces, Oh, and hell, there's a lot of stories out there about how we were seeded by this group of ETs and nurtured by that one, and blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about the dynamics of the paradigm. You're being set up anyway. There are some beings that are really resistant, and they are trying to stop this thing in its tracks, and would do the most covert and mean things they possibly could to derail you from this path. And if you see this kind of activity in your life or in the bigger scheme we call the world, just recognize it for what it is. Don't hold yourself back from anything that seems good for you because of it. Just let that energy be what it is. Go beyond it. Be in the love, because you can feel it. We've been numb for ages now. For all the feeling and passion we've had none. Zero. A microcosmic bit. Now, we begin to realize and know what it is to feel. And that's truth. As when you feel it, you know it, it's real. When you live it, there's no question about it. You don't need some PhD there to tell you what it's all about. And you already know. You're there, living in that love. You don't need a medical quack to fix you either. You're there, living in that love. Go through it. Finish with the avenues of the painful heart. It's in each and every one of us. And this ability to finish is really the ability to begin. It's not really finishing with anything. It's just realizing the truth that lives within our personal being. And then because we know that, seeing it everywhere else. And no deception. This is why we're accelerating things, because there is an attempt at a huge deception. And many, 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 most all of you have been influenced by it one way or another. But this is not to be the deception that's planned. Focus then inside of yourself The energies are coming strong to you through vehicles such as myself. There's many different types of vehicles here that radiate this conscious love and that can bring you quickly into your presence of self, the knowing, loving person that you are, the innocent child that is barely awakening, but is ready to grow, and ready to grow beyond it. Babies, I love you. And that's just a word. But even in saying it, I'm conveying that energy to you. Now, if you haven't felt anything, feel that. Accept that presence within yourself. Know there's at least one other person or being in this world, at least one, who cares about and loves you, and has demonstrated it many times over. Now, I may not be an active person in your life in the personal sense, but I'm there. And that's true. Because I'm this love, then so are you, and the many others too. It's the love of what I would call the ancient grandmothers coming back to us, through us. The love of our true mother, which is our heart inside. The most nurturing, caring instrument ever devised amongst the living. And this world of living and dead will become visible to you as you continue in this love. You see through the dimensions, the darkness. You lose the inability to see. You begin to regain consciousness of your true self. And as you do, truth is all that can be seen. And there's hardly a deception. There is no deception that can be played on. And it's ridiculous to even try, but some beings got to play it out. So there they go. Here we are. And this is what we're doing, but the important thing to remember is we're in this together, all of us. And that's truth. I hope you can understand and recognize this. Accept it into your personal presence. And we'll breeze right through December 21st like it was just another beautiful and gorgeous day to be living and alive here on the face of this Mother Earth, underneath what we call the Father Sky, blessed by the Sun, whose energy is rejoining within us now. We no longer need, this is wild. That's why I saved it till the end, because you got to have perseverance to get to it. We no longer need to externalize our light. It doesn't have to be in the form of a sun or a moon. Now you begin to see what this is all about. No more division. That's our strength. The collective heart is in everything. It's extreme, extreme love that creates life and causes it to experience itself in a myriad of ways. So this is another new beginning for us. And as we go through this process, every day or two or three, I'll pop out another one of these little videos and talk about the stages that we're in. And there's others that will begin to do so, because we're activating their light now, so they can remember and start to share what that element of love they've come here to share. And we'll all get through it poetically, harmoniously, and in the greatest sense of peaceful love that there could ever be. What's living inside of you is truth. What's around you and outside of you is only meant to point back to that truth, to help you see it and know it, sometimes by lying to you blatantly, by creating illusions around you that would challenge the most brilliant of souls. But these things, no matter how dark they are, how mean, how ill-conceived they may be, are pointing straight back to your heart, straight back to this consciousness we call love. It's the Christ within each and every person, and this has nothing to do with that historical figure. It's an energy. It's an awakening. It's a knowing of the cosmic truth. You know, forgive me for laughing, but it's such a joke that we feel so far removed from it when it's right here inside us. We don't have to go anywhere. Not to the Taj Mahal, not to the Guru on the mountain, not even to Grandpaw Koyote. We don't have to go anywhere. It's there. It's just a matter of awakening and being. God, I love you guys. Angel Dog does too. And because she's a little closer to her earth element, she can share a little more base love with you. And so that comes through on these videos too, even though you rarely ever see her. She's here. She's part of us, man. The dog world, the cat world, the animal kingdom, the plant world. We're all in it together, baby. The water has life, and there's love within it. Oh, babies. This paradigm is about to become so darn beautiful, we'll be speechless. Don't you just love it, babies? Don't you just love it? There's rock, and then there's roll, and then there's rock and roll. Yeah. And it's music, and it's harmony, and it's beautiful, and it's good. Oh.